Alright, welcome back. This is M-Dog. If you saw my carp video from last night, I mentioned that we were going to be doing some testing on putting together some examples of maybe some starter carp setups for folks who are looking to come to Amber and want to know what should I be saving for, what are some rod and reel combinations that might work. And so we're going to look at three, and we're going to look at them while fishing here at the pond, which has been terrific lately. And we're gonna fish this without PVA. So the first time you come to Amber, it is very possible that you may not have it unlocked, depending on how intensive you've been as you've been leveling with leveling ground bait, as well as getting points in your bottom fishing. Of course, to use PVA, you need to be at 100% with bottom fishing. To make PVA, you need to be at 100% with making ground bait. And once you are there, then you can use PVA. But you can fish Amber without PVA, and I'm not going to focus on it in this video, but at some point I want to do a little bit of a look at specifically some of the pre-PVA options on what to use. Of course, that will include things like the spod rod, which can be very helpful. Also, you can use the slingshots. So there are ways to sort of make up for the fact that you don't have PVA yet. But this pond is not always super active. It happens to be right now. So if it is super active when you get to Amber, it may be worth checking out to see how active it is. And I'll show you on the map where we are, and then we'll get to the different rods and reels that I think are some viable options. So this is where we are. We're throwing about 20 meters, 21 meters towards this one in the middle of the pond. And this isn't a one-time spot. I mean, this spot pops up frequently. And you'll notice that when we start looking at this, what we're using is a combination of boilies, and they're smaller boilies, so you're going to see much smaller carp on average than you would with larger boilies. And with those smaller boilies, we are putting artificial corn. And I've got three varieties, and so we can look at those in a minute here as well. But the most important thing is looking at the rods and reels. Now, I've decided to go with my recommendation for starting out at Amber. As far as rods, I'm showing you three Siberia Fortuna carp rods. These are not that expensive. It's reasonable to save for these, and they are some of the best value in the game in terms of rods. Worth it for carp fishing. You can get much farther cast. They're nice and long, so you've got good control of the fish. Now, some people do choose to fish for carp with regular feeders, and that is definitely viable. Okay, now we're starting to get some testing done here. We're starting to get some tests in. So this is going to be really interesting to see what size carp this is, because with the strength of line and leader we have, it was actually pulling line. Oh, maybe not. Maybe it's the other one that's getting pulled. Okay. It might have been the other one. That was only a 5.8 kilo mirror. I would say there's a chance we've got a pretty decent fish over here, although we did have the friction brake pretty low. So let's see. At least at 16 friction brake, it was pulling. Now, this is our strongest of the three reels. So like I was saying, we're using Fortuna carp rod on all three, and so the real decision is not to me what rod to use. I think it's a... Ooh, that's now getting pulled as well. Oh, we just popped that one off. So you may see me do that more than often here, because I'm gonna have to adjust myself to having a lot less strength than I'm used to with carp fishing. So I'm gonna have to chill just a little bit on these. All right, let's see what we have on here. So our friction brake's at 21. Let's see. So we can get this all the way to 29, and it's just about perfect there on the getting the full strength out of this little reel. Okay, so let's start talking about them, the actual reels. All right. Now, this first reel, so we're going weakest to strongest on reels. It's also cheapest to most expensive. This first reel was the one that I was the most unsure of if I should include it or not. I think it is borderline. It is a little better than an alpha. I don't know if it's enough better than an alpha to justify being in my list, but I've talked to some other people who have used it, namely Relicade most recently was giving me some feedback because he's got one. This is the first time I've got him in reverse order. Never mind. This is the strongest. Okay, so this is the Avia. I'll come back to this one. Let's try to get this fish in. Let me be a little more gentle here. It goes strongest to weakest. Strongest is set up on the left side. This is actually an Avia. I'm really excited about this reel. Of the 3 reels, now I know this one is the most expensive of the 3. And I've got the statistics over to my right. I can kind of look at them when we get a second to talk without catching fish. But this spot does have such a nice bite rate, at least until it gets to like afternoon. There may not be a lot of downtime. So this is the Avia. It is worth pointing out, though, I have chosen to put the same strength line, leader, and everything on all 3. So we've got 22.6 line, a little bit stronger than that, leader, and lead core with a large 1 hook. So all of these reels I have got at the same line strength. I'm not adjusting it based on the different reels. I've decided to come in at 22.6. I think if your rods and reels can handle it, which we're overloading a little bit, but I think all 3 of these are okay at this size. To me, that's probably the place that you're going to be most comfortable. Some folks might come in at 20, but I like 22. I think 22 is a good sweet spot. You're getting all of your strength out of your reels that are possible with these 3 setups. That's a nice common. We just pulled on the Avia. So that's pretty exciting. Okay, again, this is the Avia. We're using blackcurrant 14, yellow corn, and blackcurrant dip on this one. I'll try to show the baits as we go, and then I'll come back to them and show them again, because I do have, each one is slightly different, but the carp in this pond are not super picky. They are just really, really consistent if you put the right baits and corn in. All right, so this is the third and weakest of our setups, okay? This little grass carp. Let's show this one first. All right, this is the one that I was the most uncertain about, right? This is a Narga 8000. So the Narga has a max drag of 14.5 kilos. Its mech strength, if you lock the mech, its mech strength is a lot higher than that. Now that doesn't really come into play when we're just reeling in fish that are actively fighting against us. But if you ever had to like wear a carp out and get it completely, dead, where you could just like, not dead, but so tired that it's not fighting you, if you locked the mech, then the Narga actually does have a lot of strength. Notice with the Simmons Mono Blue, 23 kilo blue, 0.48 millimeters, we're getting 158 line capacity on a Narga. So, that's going to be the concern on these is, do we have enough spool on there? If you're fishing out in the main part of amber, you may want to consider using braided line. I have decided to go with mono line here for this video. I think ideally you want to go with mono. You're going to see damage come on your reels a lot faster with braided, in my opinion. But I think that if you can get away with mono, then it does save on the damage. But it just depends on where on the lake you're fishing. In this pond, we don't really have to worry about it, because there's not, really the fish is going to stay in this area, right? So we're probably not going to get spooled. We're probably going to be able to tire the fish out if it was a really big one. But, okay, so the Narga. This is the first of the 3 reels. In the cheaper lakes, so like Volkhov or Aktuba or Mosquito, wherever, I mean, the lakes that aren't overpriced in the tackle shop, you're looking at about 2,400 silver, between, 2,463 it looks like. So this is the one that I'm the most unsure about. So we'll try to keep an eye on this, on the Narga, as we're using it. And we'll see a little bit in this video. We'll certainly see more in future videos if I test it more and more. This will be the first test. The next test might be to go out on the open lake and see how they hold up on a spot where maybe the average fish size is going to be a little larger. Might be a little slower out there, but it might be a little larger fish. So, so that's the Narga. Let's go ahead and after we catch this fish, if we have a moment, we'll go ahead and look at the middle reel. Again, from right to left, it's cheapest to most expensive. It's also weakest to strongest. That's a good question. Okay, so on the second rod, okay, did I show you the baits on the Narga 8000? We're actually using blackcurrant 14, which is really 15. Blackcurrant purple corn. So if you remember on the first line with the Avia, we've got yellow corn and then blackcurrant dip. So the big difference here is purple corn versus yellow corn from the third line to the second line. Here's the second one. All right, so this is probably the real... I mean, I'm excited about the Avia, but I've heard so much about the Caliber since it came out, and I had never tried one until I decided to start saving for purchasing these 3 reels. You know, part of the reason why was because I was already high enough level and had sort of put myself in a position where I saved for and purchased Tagara and a Megara, and then I won a second Megara, and I had a Venga at that point. So I kind of skipped right over these newer reels that are kind of the mid-size reels, mid to mid-high. But this is the Caliber. With 24.6 line, we're getting only 129 meters of mono line on here. You know, so the one thing about the Avia that is nice is it has a bigger spool, but we've got 17.5 kilo drag, just like the Narga we talked about. If we did ever lock up the mech is a good bit stronger, certainly get up to around 37 kilo strength if we locked the mech up. But again, with carp fishing, that's not really something you're going to do. I mean, that doesn't really come into play. So really what we're dealing with is, you know, the 17.5 max drag plus or minus a little bit there, and then we're just having to, you know, fight the carp and stay in the game, and hopefully we can wear it out before we run out of line, which thankfully doesn't come into play as much in the pond. But I'm excited about using the Caliber. I've just heard such good things. On this line we are doing mulberry 15, so instead of the blackcurrant we're doing mulberry with mulberry purple and then mulberry dip. So again, we've got slightly different baits on all 3, but as you've seen, the bite rate's been pretty good so far across all 3. I think all 3 reels look really nice. I love seeing it down here, seeing how everything works when that line gets hit. All 3 reels look really nice. They look good with these carp rods. That looks so cool. It's even pulling a little line there. Very nice. All right, so let's take this Caliber for a spin. It'll require a lot more use for me to get a feel. You know, I've used the Venga, the 2 Megaras, and the Tagara so much, like I just have a really good feel for those reels. I like all those reels a lot. For carp fishing, I really like the Tagara, followed closely by the 2 Megaras. I think both of those reels, so all 3 of my reels, 1 Tagara and 2 Megaras, just work so well with carp fishing. But for players who are just getting to amber, it is a lot to save up for to purchase just one of those reels, much less getting 3 of them. So that's why I'm excited about taking a look at these other guys. All right, so here's the Avia. We can look at this one again. One thing I kind of wish I would have done, I just didn't have the line, and I spent sort of all my silver finishing off getting these reels, so I didn't purchase new line, but I really would like to set them up next time to have all the exact same line on there. I mean, they all have the same leader and lead core, but this one and the Caliber have this 24.6 line, and the I almost wanted to call it a Natora, but it's a Narga. I always get the Narga and the Tora messed up, but the Narga has smaller line on it slightly. It's this mono blue line. So it appears to be getting more line on the reel, which it is. It's a pretty decent sized spool, but it's also, that's 0.48 diameters, where this is 0.6 diameters. So this is a lot thicker line in comparison. So the caliber for comparison is getting 129, while the Avia with a much bigger spool with the same line size has potentially getting 207. So the Avia, while is a good bit more expensive, is, I think, the most comfortable of the three in terms of spool size for coming to amber. But it is possible, maybe even with the use of braided line, but I think it is possible to make these other two work as well. Certainly the caliber. And I don't think I've mentioned the caliber price yet. So you're getting 17.5 max drag, and the caliber is 5,312 silver. So we've gone up from the Narga at 24 silver all the way up to over 5,000 silver. So, you know, you're paying a lot more for the caliber. I think it's probably worth it, to be honest. And then finally, to look at the Avia, which I showed you in the beginning, but it's up to 18.5, so it's even stronger, a much bigger spool, and so you're really getting into a comfortable position here. Now, the Avia, if you lock the mech, according to what's been tested by others, and please know that with these maximum mech strength, this is not testing I've done, I'm relying on data from other players, it supposedly is up around 41, or a little north of 41. But this reel does cost 8,417 silver. So you're getting up towards, you know, it's not quite half of a Tagara. It's less than half of the price of a Tagara. But it is, it's getting up there for sure. I think one of these lines has a fish on it, if I'm not mistaken. I think when we were, it's probably this one. No? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe one of them doesn't. Because I really don't see any movement at all right now. Alright, maybe we're good. So the Avia, I really like, the Avia looks really unique to me. I think it looks very cool. I mean, for that matter, I mean, all three of these reels look great. For how inexpensive the Narga is, I'm pretty impressed with it. I'll probably end up with this Narga. Well, I don't know. I haven't decided for sure. But from what I've heard with direct comparison, it really is a noticeable difference from using an alpha out here. So I think it's worthy of being on this list of the three possibilities for reels that you want to aim for amber. I just think in the long run, you're gonna be safer, and you're also going to, from what I've heard, the Narga racks up pretty expensive repair costs fairly quickly, which may be one of the downsides of that compared to the other two. We're also using like, I mean, they're decent carp hooks, these Alliance curved, but they're not the typical carp hooks. I would usually use like the Mugga one, like full 5-star expensive carp hooks, but I thought we would just kind of not quite go all out, since this is meant to be more of a beginner to amber setup. And as you can see, I mean, this spot does well with PVA as well. I mean, I've used PVA here, and it's great. I mean, I think the only concern with PVA in this spot is if you are using the 15 size boilies, sometimes it's maybe you're cutting into your profit a little more than you normally would, because you're definitely gonna pull in juveniles here. But the right bite rate is such that, you know, in an hour's time, and I don't know if I've depleted my pond a little bit from fishing here recently, but in an hour's time, typically you're going to see just such a good bite rate that you end up making a lot of silver. I mean, this is, ooh, what an interesting test we have here. I like us hooking into some of these heavier carp on these, so we can at least see what the reels look like and trying to pull in some, at least a little bit of fighters. I don't know that, I'm not sure what it would be like with, especially with this reel, really fighting a trophy for a while. I think it's doable, but it's going to be a way different experience than what I'm used to on the Megaras or the Tagara. It's another nice little common though. And I know I've said this before, but I really encourage people the first time they get to amber, you know, not to get overwhelmed by all of the boilie choices, all the different dips and things you can do with PVA. Just figure out, get some ideas about what's working and kind of start small. I mean, you really could just come here and purchase either the mulberry or the black currant. You know, get you 100 boilies, 100 corn, a couple things a dip, and you haven't spent that much silver, and you're going to immediately be making a lot of silver by the time you kind of use those up. So species wise, so far we have caught commons, only one frame-sided, one grass, and then mirrors. But so far, pretty good spread of different things. So as you have, if you've seen previous carp fishing videos, this is more what my normal carp setup would look like with the Tagaras. And I'm actually using a Venga only because my one of my Megaras is still in the shop here. But those are sort of my nicer carp setups, but when you first get here, you're much more likely to be able to put together something like this. Wow. So the blackcurrant and blackcurrant purple, I feel like is kind of maybe doing the best overall. And so we may switch all three to this just for a few minutes. Nice mirror. Okay. Let's go ahead and switch this over. You know, earlier I did, this might have been last night, I actually did use mulberry, mulberry on all three and did really well. So I don't think I mean, I think you can, certainly mulberry works good in this spot, but just seems like blackcurrant is maybe doing a little better just at the moment. So let's see how this does. And we may even switch. The only difference right now is the far left rod has yellow corn instead of purple. Other than that, all three are getting to be identical. Yeah, once. Oof. telling you, this third rod with the weakest reel is a magnet for these things right now. And this, so this is the first time I have used this reel. Same with the caliber. Now the Avia I used in that last video I recorded. So I mean, I've used it a little bit tonight, but not much. So we can look at kind of how the damage is looking on all three of them, just to see. But this should be a pretty good carp. See if we can change its direction for a minute here. And you can see, oh, that one's getting pulled now too. You can see that, I mean, the fish is like, I don't know, over halfway across the pond already, and we have tons of line left. So mono line really should be fine for the pond at least. So the only advantage with any of these reels, the only advantage in overloading them with stronger line would be if you were going to be trying to lock them. Which just in carp fishing, you're not going to do that much. So one person was saying earlier that they do it some if they've completely exhausted the carp, and I guess that makes sense. I'm not sure that overloading any of these reels much more than this makes sense. At least in my understanding of how this works. And it may be that folks have a different understanding or a better understanding and would say, no, it is worth putting, stronger line and leaders and lead core on there, that these reels can handle it. But unless you're locking it, I don't think you see the advantage. Again, if I'm understanding how things are working. I don't want to lose this fish because I think after seeing how hard it's fighting against this setup, I want to know what size it is. And we were just getting the signal there that the reel was getting overloaded. So we are just at half spool now. And you can see it's way over there. So it doesn't seem like it's going to have space enough to spool us, even if we just sit here and don't move. I like keeping my friction brake on 28 for the most part. So we took the tension off enough to... And the reason why I like doing it on 28, to be honest, is just I don't want to accidentally lock it. So if I have it on 28, I'm much less likely to accidentally go up to completely locked out. Tired carp, at least for the moment. I think it's probably safer for us right now to just kind of chill a little bit. Okay, now our energy's back in the green. I think we can reassert ourselves here. Try to make some progress with bringing it in. Well, I guess there's no way around. I mean, even at a spot like this that is the reason why you're making a ton of silver here is because of the bite rate. And so if you've got weaker setups, some fish you're going to have to fight for a longer amount of time, which is going to significantly slow down the bite rate. But, you know, if you get the fish in, you've gotten a really nice carp in. And so for someone who's just come to amber, just put together some carp setups, I still say this is a really nice spot. So he's still fighting a little bit. I don't think he's going to have enough strength left to pull our line anymore. He may fight a little left and right, but I don't think we're going to see the line fly back out anymore. As long as it's coming straight in, we keep reeling it in as fast as we can. When it pulls one way or the other, we want to be careful and try to decrease our chances of just ripping the hook out of its mouth. Like there it goes there. Looks like a common to me. Let's see what size it is. That was a lot of work for a 17 kilo common. But we got it in. It's a nice payday. Some good XP. All right, let's see what else we have on. I guess it was the first line that was, the Avia was getting pulled a little bit. See if it's still on there. Okay. So I believe in all the time we were fighting the other carp, this one wore himself out a little bit. Because he is certainly not pulling now. And that's going to be a mirror, I'm guessing. Yeah, it's a mirror. It's interesting that that was pulling. And if the fish does not pull your line, then with this little 20-meter clip we're using, you can really maximize your time of actually having the bait in the water, because you get the fish in so fast. So that's our largest fish. Pretty nice common. And truthfully, 5 to 10 kilo common, or not just commons, 5 to 10 kilo carp, that's really how you're making your money here. When it's a really nice bite rate, like it has been for the most part recently, you're not making your money from just like single carp here and there. It's because of the volume. Nice dig. Very small mirror. And recently on even my larger setups, I've been going with 28 kilo. So, and you can go up to 31, 36. And I've done that at times. And with the Vinga, you can do about anything. I mean, you've got such a big spool and everything. But even with the Megars and the Tagaras, I've sort of settled at wanting to use monoline. And so kind of settling on that 28 kilo range, even with my bigger carp setups, has felt like the right move for now, at least. Just kind of balancing strength of line, but having plenty of spool on the reel available to you as well. 28. Oh, look at that. That's a lucky fish. That's the second red starvus that this Avia has pulled in a very short amount of time. If you saw the last video where I was using the Avia in place of my Megaras as like my third setup, we caught a really nice red starvus out on the main lake. I'm thinking about how that 17 kilo carp, common carp felt. Even in the pond, it took us down to about, at least the indicator showed we had about half of our spool left. The trophy is going to be interesting out on the main lake. You may have to go with braided if you're in a spot where you're, especially if you're catching a decent percentage of trophies. Pretty nice common. We've got 28 keepers, is that right? At about 36 minutes. We'll go to about 45 minutes or so, as long as we keep getting bites through the night. We've got just enough power to just pull this guy straight in, it seems like. Could be a little risky, he might pop off, but I think we've got him. He's probably not going to pull against us at this point. Any more force, and I think he would have. So it's a linear. Very cool. Yet another species that we've caught here in this one spot. So now we've got common frame, grass, linear mirror, and then the red starvis. I guess we'll leave it. Yeah, I pulled that one, picked that one up too fast. The bite hadn't finished yet. It didn't actually come off. It just hadn't fully gotten on yet. And that's frustrating because that, as you could tell, was going to be a pretty nice size carp. So last time I streamed, this was one of the places we fished at, and you know, the bite rate has been good while we've been making this video, but it was just absolutely intense that time. Now that was with PVA. So there's at least the difference of PVA, but I was using very similar baits, and it was, I mean, like this, just even more intense of a bite rate, and probably maybe slightly higher fish quality. I don't know, but similar. I mean, a lot of like 5 to 10 kilo carp, but it added up to a really nice payday by the end of the time that we fished here. Sort of just leading up to midnight, we've seen pretty good continued bite rate. Let's see how it goes from here in the night. I mean, you can see like the amount of time between fish is usually, you know, very small. Now, why did we have a 10-minute gap here? Oh, because of the long fish fight with the big 17 kilo common. So that is what's gonna be what slows you down. Because on my regular gear, a 17 kilo common, I pull that in pretty fast. So like I said, that will slow you down a little bit if you do hit a chunky carp, but still worth it. So we're at 41 minutes. You know, when it will definitely pick up again is, you know, around that 3 or maybe like 4 a.m. in the morning. It'll start popping off again, most likely, but I think we'll still occasionally catch fish during the night here as well. Especially with there being mirrors here. kind of fun. I mean, you really feel every carp in the that you catch with the lighter setups. I think these Fortuna carp rods, if I'm remembering correctly, are around 1600 or 1700 silver. So if you got the Narga at 2400 silver, you know, you're talking about around 4K for just the rod and reel on this setup. Because the Narga is 2463. And then the bigger caliber, which is here on the middle rod, is 5300. So you're talking around 7000 for this rod and reel. And then the Avia cost 8,000. Well, no, let's see. Where is it on the cheap? What is on the cheaper? Is it 8,000? Yes, it's 8,400. So just over 10K for the rod and reel on that setup. And what I had originally planned on doing as sort of putting together a backup rod, you know, carp setup, if my main was, you know, getting repaired, or if I just wanted to use a smaller setup, I was going to get Avia straight across. But as I thought about it, and I still may do that at some point, but as I thought about it, I have heard so many good things about the calibers, both the HSV as well as the big one, which we have the big one. I decided I wanted to get a caliber to kind of show it as one of the options that you should consider. And then when I had two that I was decided on, the third one, I was like, you know, some people really swear by the Nargas and have caught a lot of carp on them. And so on paper, they don't look as good to me, but I thought it was worth trying it. I think if you don't want to go Narga, and you do want a cheaper option, I might try the caliber HSV. It's in the ballpark in terms of price range as the Narga, but again, I haven't used it. I mean, this is the first time I've even used the bigger caliber, so I'm not sure, but I think you could sub that out or just save up for calibers and or Avias. I'm definitely the most, you know, undecided about the Narga coming into this. But it'll be good for me to use them. I mean, people ask me about these reels, these 3 specific reels, as well as a couple others all the time. And until now, I just never used them. So it was hard to say. It was hard to give people advice along those lines. And it has definitely slowed down. 1 minute, 4 minutes, 6 minutes. But it's still active through the night, which is nice. 3 kilo common maybe. But the nice thing about this spot and this, the way we're approaching this is the investment in terms of bait is so low. The cost of the boilies, the corn, and the dip, you know, per fish is very small. So because PVA or even ground bait's not involved, you're getting a really nice return. All right, we've got to be past 45 minutes. Yeah, we're at 48 minutes. It is about to start popping off again, but let's just see kind of where we're at, and then we will maybe come back, catch a couple more fish, and then wrap it up. And I'll check the prices on those carp rods. They're going to be more expensive here. This is one of the lakes that has a little bit more expensive price range, but not by a ton, so we'll be able to get an estimate. So 319 silver in less than an hour. I mean, that's going to end up being, I really think even without PVA, you're looking at 400 silver an hour on the low end. I know other times that I've done a solid hour there, it's been it's been common to be between 500 and 600. Oh, man, and you just need one grass carp for 4 kilo, which is possible there. All right, so let's look at carp rods. And the Fortuna carp rod. So, yeah, it's 1,700 here, so it's probably 1,650 or something. I don't know. Really nice though. Really nice carp rods. And you're also not spending 10 silver on a four-wheeler ride for this spot either, unless you just want to, but again, no PVA, no four-wheeler. You're already starting off at a spot of not investing in as much silver in the beginning to starting to catch some nice carp. I think we've got this guy heading straight in. One of the more common carp and carp sizes that I see at Amber. It's like the 4 kilo mirror. Thankfully, there's a cafe order that pops up all the time for that 4 kilo mirror, but just see that come in a lot. That was almost another one. Okay. I really would be interested if you all, some of you that have used some of these different reels, different than ones I've used, if you would go a different direction, or which of these three, or a different one for folks who are just getting to Amber or trying to put together their first carp setup but not wanting to spend Tagara or Megara money. We've got the Beluga Narga, the Siberia Caliber, the SLC, and the Beluga Avia 8000. So here's 3 ideas for you that I think are all worth considering. I'm especially excited about the Caliber and the Avia, but I'll enjoy spending time with all 3 of these setups. So let me know what you think, what you're using, or what you might suggest someone uses. But as always, I appreciate you being here. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.